Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Jared Powers, Technical Representative for Tamron USA, here today with our 5-minute refresher. Today's 5-minute refresher is going to be on focal length. So what exactly is focal length and what is it going to do for you? How does it work in conjunction with our lenses or your style of photography? So that's a pretty long, drawn out explanation there, as you can see, and I'm going to give you a minute or two to look over yourself because it's actually pretty kind of dense scientific discussion. Suffice to say that the wider we're going to be, we're going to have less magnification and we're going to have a wider angle of view. The farther out we zoom, we have a smaller field of view, and we're going to get more of that compression, a little magnification in there as well. So how do we put this into play? How does it function in regards to the lenses that are actually in our bag? So here you go. Now we know all of us in the industry manufacture somewhere between 8 and 800 millimeters, or commonly 14 millimeters to 600, as you see here, with that fisheye being in play as well. Now, Tamron does not specifically manufacture a fisheye. We have in the past, but I'm going to start with that. That's one we talk about a lot. That is one of the only non-rectilinear lenses usually made by a manufacturer. So in that case, when we say 8 millimeters, we are talking about a 180-degree field of view. If you're not careful, your feet will be in the shot. So when we think about that as a starting point and where we're going to go from there, we're actually taking our well, it'd be this way, right? My eyesight, and I'm going to bring it in just like this, right? Until I get to that 600 millimeters, which is a 4-degree field of view. That's quite small. If this graphic is to be trusted, that's also going to tell us that our 800 millimeters would be a 2-degree field of view, which again has given us that sense of compression, a little bit of magnification there. Same on the outer side for our 8 millimeter, doing the opposite of that. So here's an example. As you'll see across the top, there are certain times where we choose to use specific focal lengths because they do the right thing based on what our subject matter is. As an example, you see that medium telephoto, and right below that, the normal side of things, snapshots, average situations. So when we think about portraits, many of us in the industry, in the field, or in our teachings, we discuss 85 millimeters or 75 millimeters up to about 135 as a good range. And every working pro you talk to, they might have a slightly different range, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever range they choose is because that is what suits their style. I do know portrait people out there who really love to shoot 200 millimeter lenses for their work, and they just have to stand a little farther back. But that focal length for them is exactly what they're looking for. So depending on what you shoot, you can look across the top there. We are going to dive into some of these just shortly and give a good look and see what exactly focal length is physically doing. When we talk about focal length too, in regards to photographic lenses, do be aware we have 2 very specific types, fixed and zoom. And we know this because we go out and the first question in the camera store is, you want a Tamron? Okay, do you want a fixed focal length or would you prefer a zoom lens? And then it just depends on what your needs are for your workflow or for what it is you're trying to achieve, because not all of these are equal. So how does it affect the photography? Let's jump into that real quick. Here is a picture, a grid that came from a really good article I read quite a few years ago now on Petapixel. It's called "This is How the Camera Adds 10 Pounds." The easiest way to get a quick look at this is if we look in the upper left-hand corner, 20 millimeters, look at the hair, how just the part where it's not the physical ball and we have a little bit of separation between the hair and the background, and you can see how it just pokes out like that, right? Now, if you look down at the 200 millimeter in the opposite corner, you see we have not nearly as much space between our hairs and what we thought we had when we shot it at the 20 millimeter range. Now, I think this is a great graphic, but the fact of the matter is Petapixel did a really good job with this article, and they gave us a beautiful graphic to help illustrate this. So if you're a portraiture person, have a look at this. This is how your choice in focal length is physically affecting your subject matter. Not all lenses are equal in what they show you. So this is something to take into consideration next time you're going out looking for a portraiture lens or you're trying to achieve some specific results with your workflow. Now let's go on. That's for portraiture people. What if you're doing architecture? Take a look at this. So this is a good way to show you how a building, something that is a little bit more of a rigid structure, more of maybe a geometric shape, how it is physically going to stretch out. You know, when we're shooting portraits, we're not thinking about geometric shapes whatsoever. Just like architecture, people probably aren't thinking about the sphere of the head and which side the light falls on, unless maybe they're comparing it to a roof or a corner of a building. But again, most buildings these days are not round. So this is how it's going to affect our architecture people or those people who may be doing a little bit more of a scientific geometric type of photography. So how is that going to affect our landscapes? This is a little easier to wrap our heads around because essentially we're not using any funky graphics. It's very easy for us to see at 16 millimeters how wide that is and how much of the physical landscape is in the shot versus our other corner. When we go down to 200 millimeters, we'll see that we've got a lot less. Now, at the end of the day, all 6 of those shots are actually landscapes. They all employ a different focal length for each one. And depending on who you are, what you like to shoot, and how you like to shoot, any one of those could be a very usable landscape for what you're trying to do. So, you know, while we have our parameters, like I talked about with a portraiture range, you know, we have those for landscape too. You can break any rule in photography that you like. You just have to be able to stand behind your work. So don't be afraid to do that and experiment with different focal lengths when shooting landscape photography. So lastly, a lot of things in photography we can't cheat. Physics is something that's very, very difficult to cheat, at least without spending a lot of extra money that maybe we don't have or we don't want to shell out for what it is, the project that we're trying to do. So when we look at this, these are the 2 teleextenders that you see that Tamron offers. Now, right now, they're only paired with those 4 lenses, the 70 to 210, 100 to 400, 70 to 200 G2, and 150 to 600 G2. But we talk about putting a 2x conversion on a 600 millimeter lens, that gives you 1200 millimeters. There isn't a standard manufacturer out there with anything over than 800 millimeters right now on the market. So if this is something that you really need, if you're trying to put yourself in a place where maybe your focal length wasn't enough, a place where you want to be there to shoot, but maybe there are safety precautions or something like that. I always think of a lion enclosure. We use that 150 to 600 to put us there with the lion, not the other way, bringing the lion to us, or putting ourselves in there with the lion, which would be very unsafe. I know a lot of our bird shooters across the country love that lens, and they employ either one of these 2, depending on their camera body that they use to get the results that they are looking for. So this has been a very quick refresher on what focal length is and how it gets you to the results that you are looking for. Thank you again for all your time and support. We here at Tamron love you guys, and we're looking forward to getting back out in the field, get some great shots and some great classes going across the country for you. Until next time, thank you. Stay safe.